Honduras, 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 Honduras.
The massive caravan currently making its way north through Mexico is no isolated event. Immigrants from around the world have traveled this route for decades. Making the 1,400-mile trek is always a difficult and dangerous undertaking. It would be all but impossible if it weren't for some organizations that encourage and assist these travelers on their way. This most recent caravan has prompted many to ask about who is helping facilitate what's becoming one of the largest mass migrations in modern history. I interviewed some who were helping these Hondurans make it to the United States.
Tortas, ya se dieron tamales en la mañana, café, pan.
Venimos a apoyar a la iglesia primera del Nazareno de aquí de Huistla, en apoyo a todos los hermanos que vienen de Centroamérica, dándoles agua, comida, ropa y todo lo que ellos necesitan. Estamos para...
Mexico recently elected a pro-migrant president, but the Mexican government is having trouble deciding how or even if they should help these migrants who have come into their country illegally.
So I'm just outside of Tapachula in southern Mexico, and a group of migrants just walked by. They're behind the main group, but it's still a couple hundred people, and they were stopped by some immigration agents in several immigration vans, basically just encouraging them to take the legal steps necessary to declare asylum in Mexico. But the migrants didn't like that idea and they ran off. And so now the police and the immigration authorities are kind of standing around trying to figure out what to do.
When the confrontation happened, another group of supporters showed up. A left-wing group committed to open borders and gun control called the Swedish Fellowship of Reconciliation stepped between the migrants and the Mexican police.
Nosotros estamos brindando la ayuda necesaria de acuerdo a la ley.
And they didn't want to be filmed.
Disculpe, ¿por qué está tomando fotos?
Nada. Nosotros no estamos ni atacando, ni lesionando, ni nada. Estamos brindando el apoyo.
I don't think anyone can see these images of women marching in the hot sun or sleeping on the streets at night with their babies and not have it tug at their heartstrings. But many people are starting to ask whether or not charity has to include encouraging people to make bad choices.
They don't need to leave. They can stay, set in roots, and develop their own land.
Graham and Nicole Davis moved to Central America 5 years ago to help young people break the cycle of violence and poverty.
We have based our foundation on the obvious principles that it makes more sense to meet people where they are. It's much more cost effective and it's much more successful than moving them across borders and forcing them into a new education system. We meet them right where they are and care for them, and they grow. We're earning the right to be heard by moving into their neighborhood and educating them. Our students aren't running for the border. They see the value in being where they are and growing in leadership. The Advanced Project develops leaders in the developing world. That's what we do.
Through mentoring, education, leadership, and the gospel, this family is making a difference by showing a young generation of Central Americans that they don't necessarily need the United States. What they need is Jesus. For CBN News, I'm Chuck Holton in Chiapas State, Mexico.